It's possible that Victor Wembanyama merely committed too many fouls. Rumors of a potential ban have gone viral online following a contentious incident involving Jalen Brunson in Game 3 of the NBA Finals. Is it possible that the Spurs star will watch Game 4 rather than participate in it? I'll catch you up. The fuse was lit on Monday during the first quarter of Game 3 with 444 remaining. Just above the free throw line, Brunson and Wembanyama were vying for position as Josh Hart carried the ball up the floor. They are vying for a few feet of space on one of the greatest basketball stages by pushing and jostling. Then it took place. The Knicks guard fell to the court as Wembanyama used his left arm to shove Brunson, who seemed to be carrying a piece of Wembanyama's jersey, in the back of his neck. Although Brunson did not fall all the way to the court, the push caused him to brace himself on the floor, which infuriated the arena's spectators. Nothing, not even a whistle. The game goes on. Wembanyama had already shifted his attention to the following play when Brunson sprang up and attempted to address him. Challenge the big man for the Spurs, who was observed grinning and concentrating on the upcoming play. One of the series' pivotal scenes was Brunson pointing his finger at a 7 feet 4 inches man who had already moved on. Because of everything it represented for what was going to happen off the court, not because of what would happen next in the game. The Spurs played with the aggressiveness of a club that had to use its physicality to survive after falling behind 0-2 in the series going into Game 3. Wembanyama established that tone in the first quarter and supported it with a performance. Wembanyama had his best finals performance to date, finishing the game with 32 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists. After taking the lead in the third quarter thanks to Julian Champagne's big three, San Antonio never trailed again. The Spurs won 115-111 to end the series at 2-1. However, the final score had nothing to do with the subject that everyone wanted to discuss. Immediately following the game, the main narrative on social media was the sharp contrast between the uncalled shove by Wembanyama and the reviewed flagrant one on Brunson. Within minutes, the videos went viral and continued to spread. Because one question kept coming up as more people viewed it. Why isn't that called? Here's the thing now. This was more than simply a playoff game no call. It was an issue that escalated a routine foul dispute into a potentially disastrous final situation. A player is immediately punished for one game if he receives 4 egregious foul points in a single postseason. Wembanyama was already halfway to losing a finals game before he even set foot on the court because he presently has 2 flagrant foul scores, both of which were earned on a single play. And he would have had a rough night if that shove had been enhanced. From watching his team battle for a title while dressed in everyday clothes. Following the shove, guard Jose Alvarado of the New York Knicks delivered Wembanyama a severe message. Alvarado remarked, "I don't think that's basketball. He managed to get away with one. That will be the final one." The 5-season New York player Stephon Marbury posted a video to Instagram in which he gave Wembanyama a direct warning. Wemby is a player from around the world. Just so you know, they play dirty overseas, Marbury remarked. On air, ESPN commentator Richard Jefferson acknowledged that he believed Wemby should have received a flagrant 1 foul. One night, 3 voices pointed in the same direction. The league was now faced with a choice that would determine the outcome of the remainder of this series because something had gone too far. You have to go back in time to understand why this thing blew up the way it did. Because Wembanyama was not even close to being involved in a physicality controversy for the first time this playoffs. Early in the second quarter of Game 4 of the Western Conference playoffs against the Minnesota Timberwolves, Wembanyama threw an elbow at Timberwolves player Naz Reid's jaw, resulting in his first-ever dismissal. One of the most bizarre scenes of the 2026 playoffs was what transpired next. After being caught in a tough double-team, Wembanyama had just leveled Reid by ramming his elbow into the Minnesota forward's throat. While the Spurs and their supporters feared the worst, Timberwolves fans were furious. They also received exactly that. The Spurs center was automatically disqualified after the officials and replay center examined the action and determined that it was a flagrant 2 foul. When the penalty was issued with around 32 minutes remaining in Game 4, Wembanyama seemed to question teammate Harrison Barnes. What does that mean? Take a moment to consider that. The most talked-about player in the NBA, currently in his 3rd season. Furthermore, he had no idea what a flagrant 2 entailed. Reid was hit on the right side of his jaw and neck, causing him to twist and fall to the ground, according to a video review. Due to severe contact above the neck, Referee Zach Zarba declared that the penalty had been raised to a flagrant 2. The earliest All-Star to be ejected from a postseason game was Wembanyama. According to ESPN research, the Spurs lost that game right away in the play-by-play period since 1997 to 1998. The Spurs lost Game 4 to the Timberwolves after Wembanyama was disqualified against Minnesota. After all was said and done, the NBA examined the play for potential discipline. They allowed him to stroll. Wembanyama's elbow on Reed during Game 4 would not result in a suspension. He was cleared by the NBA to participate in the Spurs' 5th game. No fine, no suspension. After the game, Spurs head coach Mitch Johnson expressed his belief that Wembanyama's acts had no malicious purpose. That Wembanyama needs to be better protected by officials right now. Johnson stated that he will eventually have to defend himself if those in charge of regulating the game and safeguarding its physicality fail to do so. In other words, the coach was effectively warning the league. Whether the referee assisted him or not, his player was going to protect himself. Wembanyama had to contend with difficult defense both throughout the regular season and throughout the playoffs, including no calls that would have caused him harm. It wasn't until Game 4 of the Western Conference playoffs that he lost control of his emotions. 3 years into his NBA career, the slim and lanky Frenchman still has to gain strength because his 88-inch body weighs only 235 pounds. Until then, opponents would make every effort to push, bang, and foul him in an effort to hurt him and get inside his head. In the NBA Finals, Wembanyama eventually strikes back with a stunning elbow that sends a man to a shove to the back of someone's neck. His answers aren't nuanced. They are equivalent to the discharge of 3 years' worth of pent-up annoyance in one instant. Guard De'Aaron Fox of the Spurs stated, "Everyone knows that playoff basketball will be physical, and nobody expects to not have bumps and bruises. You retaliate if you are struck. That's life," Fox remarked. However, Fox's defense falls short in this regard. The board already had the points on it. Sitting there, waiting, 2 blatant foul points. The league was now debating whether to add one more. One of the most misused tools in the NBA's disciplinary toolbox is the flagrant foul point system. The majority of fans are just dimly aware of its existence. Few realize how swiftly a player's postseason, even in the playoffs, may come to an end. A suspension based on a point system results from multiple flagrants. For a blatant 1 point. And 2 points for a blatant 2. A ban during the regular season only occurs when a player scores more than 5 points. However, it is reduced to just 3 during the playoffs. Third, that's all. You're done after 3 points. While your teammates compete for the title without you, you sit in a locker room. Before being suspended during the playoffs, players are given 3 penalty points. Due to his blatant 2 fouls against Naz Reid, Wembanyama already got 2 penalty points. Wembanyama would receive 3 penalty points for the postseason if the NBA decided that his shove qualified for a flagrant 1 designation. This means that he would be immediately suspended for any more flagrant offense. Give that a moment to breathe. 1 additional blatant transgression of any type. 1 more retaliatory moment, 1 more irritated reaction, and Wembanyama loses a game, possibly a deciding one, in a physically taxing final series where every screen, every box out, and every contested rebound is contested hard. The remainder of the series might have been significantly impacted if the shove had been elevated to a flagrant foul. Not even from this era is the most terrifying historical precedent in this case. The year is 2016. Although they are uncommon, penalties for players who reach the 4 egregious foul point threshold during the postseason do occur. Most famously, Draymond Green was punished for Game 5 of the 2016 NBA Finals after he committed 4 egregious foul points during the postseason, which resulted in his absence during a crucial defeat to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Ultimately, that resulted in Golden State's first-ever 3-1 loss. When Draymond sat, Golden State was ahead 3-1. In 7 games, they lost the series. The most well-known self-inflicted injury in finals history is this one, and it occurred as a result of a player continuing to press the line until it pushed back. Wembanyama was entering that same area at the age of 22. Wembanyama would have been 1 flagrant foul away from an immediate suspension if the shove on Brunson had been raised to a flagrant 1. He could not have played as physically as he could have. For the remainder of the finals, Rather, he had 2 egregious foul points going into Game 4, and the Spurs' reliance on him raises the stakes even further. With reserve center Luke Kornet on the court, the Spurs were outscored by 38 points in the Western Conference Finals. The Knicks have won Kornet's minutes by 17 points thus far in the NBA Finals. This wasn't just about one game. It was about whether the Spurs could even fight for a championship without Wembanyama. Based on all the information from this postseason, the answer was extremely unsettling. No, the head of officiating for the NBA was aware of it. The league office was aware of it. Everyone involved in the finals was fully aware of the implications of the review judgment. The NBA took a rare action the morning following Game 3. They acknowledged they blew it in front of a camera. Acknowledged on Tuesday that the play ought to have been flagged as a foul. All right. I think we can all agree that a foul was missed on that play. McCutcheon stated on NBA Today on ESPN. On-ball and off-ball interactions between referees make up a significant portion of our work. Here, with 2 players on the ball and no screening action, we performed poorly. On national television, the league's officiating chief is stating, "Yes, a foul occurred, yes, we missed it. We are reviewing it, yes." The Knicks are now paying more attention to this interview. The previous evening, Knicks coach Mike Brown had already gone on record. He was referring to the entire second half, not just the shove. Following the game, Knicks head coach Mike Brown was quite critical of the refereeing, particularly the huge differential in free throws during the second half. "I never imagined that a team would try 24 free throws in the NBA Finals." Brown complained about another team's 8 in the second half, but in reality, the larger picture framed the shove. The Brunson episode made headlines since it wasn't a single instance. The Big Lead observed that Wembanyama's forearm struck Brunson's head and neck in a game where the Spurs' physicality was essentially unchecked all night. The Wembanyama shove also seemed to fall under the same type of contact that was applied to Brunson on the Champagnie play, which was obstructing a shooter's landing zone. In other words, Brunson had previously been blatantly upgraded by the league for something that appeared gentler than what Wembanyama did. Furthermore, the larger man was not held to the same standard. McCutcheon attempted to elucidate the league's perspective. "As officials, we want to make sure that, rather than killing or limiting the game, we are allowing enough roughness for players to truly compete without going beyond. There will also be an open discussion about a play like this that is on the dividing line." The NBA recognized what it was doing since the demarcation term was so cautious and purposefully neutral that it stated more than any particular ruling could. After reviewing the event, the NBA chose not to escalate it to a flagrant foul, according to ESPN's Shams Charania on Tuesday. Thus, prior to Wednesday's Game 4, the Spurs star will still have 2 flagrant foul points for the series. No extra points, no improvement. Wembanyama enters Game 4 in the same position as when he entered Game 3. The league declared that the Spurs star would not face any more penalties. This was processed in real time by the Knicks team. As usual, Brunson refused to support the league's decision. Brunson declined to add fuel to the fire. He calmly said, "Whatever you saw is what you saw," in response to a question concerning the Wembanyama shove. "It's cool, accurate, and lets the video speak for itself." However, not every member of the Knicks camp had that level of measurement. The cautions, the tension, and the future in Part 5. It's not simply the no call and no upgrade that makes this position so explosive going into Game 4. Since then, people have said that. The statements that cannot be retracted. The on-camera commitments that must now be either honored or discreetly ignored. After the contentious shove went uncalled, Jose Alvarado gave Wembanyama a firm warning. After losing 115-111 at Madison Square Garden, the Knicks were already feeling frustrated. However, a scenario from the first quarter that included their franchise guard being tossed to the ground continued to follow them after the final bell. While getting ready for the following finals test, Brooklyn's 6-foot Knicks guard Alvarado made it apparent that New York had not advanced past the play. He got away with one in his warning. That will be the final one. Landed as a pledge rather than a grievance. Alvarado's remark sounded like a promise as well as a grievance. The Knicks are currently walking a tightrope. Although they are unable to retaliate in a way that results in the suspension of their own players, they have made it clear to the public that they will take steps to ensure that this does not occur in the future. We will now watch every physical move Wembanyama makes in Game 4. By the league office, the referees, and the Knicks roster, whose backup point guard has told them that enough is enough. Stephon Marbury is another. There were differing opinions in the league over whether Wembanyama had committed a dirty play. Wembanyama was backed by players like DeMarcus Cousins and Shaquille O'Neal, but former Knicks player Stephon Marbury had strong feelings against the French sensation. I'll tell you a little bit about Wemby to give you all something to think about. Just so you know, Wemby is an international player, and they play dirty abroad. Marbury went further, so I can assure you that after watching the video of what they did to Jalen Brunson, you should make sure you put that knife to his neck any time he steps onto the basketball floor. It's at that point. Strong statements from a man who spent 13 seasons as a player in this league. The kind of statements that, whether you agree with them or not, perfectly express the current mood of a whole fan base. Marbury, a former guard for the Knicks who has extensive experience playing abroad, speculated that Wembanyama is inclined to play a rougher style of basketball because of his international experience. The Spurs WER.